9 years old dying Bobcat refuses to eat, but suddenly she hears a familiar voice and this happens. Iris, that was the name Tessa had given her when she found the injured cub years ago, was lying on the makeshift bed she had made for her. At 9 years, Iris was old for a wild bobcat, and her body had begun to show the signs of age. But it wasn't just old age that was taking her life. It was something deeper. Tessa had seen this before, the refusal to eat, the dullness in Iris's eyes. "Iris," she whispered softly, "you have to eat. Please, you're stronger than this." The bobcat's ears twitched at the sound of her voice, but she didn't respond. She lay still, staring out the window at the darkening world beyond. Tessa knelt beside Iris, gently stroking the bobcat's fur. Iris didn't flinch, but she didn't react either. It was as if she was lost in her own world, too tired to care about the woman who had cared for her all these years. And then, just as Tessa was about to stand and leave the room, something changed. Iris's head turned slightly, her eyes locking onto Tessa's face. Tessa froze. The look in Iris's eyes wasn't the same empty gaze she had been giving her for days. There was something else there now. Something that made Tessa's heart race, a spark of recognition. "Iris," Tessa whispered again, her voice barely audible. "Do you remember me?" The bobcat's body shifted slightly, and then to Tessa's surprise, Iris let out a low, raspy growl. It wasn't a growl of aggression. It was something else, something softer. Tessa's breath caught in her throat as she watched Iris lift her head, a slow, deliberate movement. Her eyes never left Tessa's. And then, without warning, Iris stood, shaky but determined. Tessa's heart soared. "Iris, you're awake. You're still here." But Iris wasn't done. She staggered forward, her legs unsteady, until she was just a few feet away from Tessa, and then she did the unthinkable. With a soft, almost imperceptible whimper, she nudged Tessa's hand. Not with her nose, but with her head, as if asking for something. A familiar gesture. Tessa's heart raced. She had never seen Iris do this before. "Iris," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You're asking for something, aren't you?" Tessa's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at Iris. The bobcat was no longer the frail, lifeless creature she had been moments ago. Something had shifted. Iris's movement, the way she nudged Tessa's hand, felt like a spark of life, had reignited in her. Tessa's mind raced as she knelt down beside her, unsure of what was happening but sensing that this was a turning point. "Iris, what is it? What do you want?" Tessa murmured, brushing a few stray strands of hair out of her face, her voice full of uncertainty. Iris, still weak but determined, looked up at her with eyes that were sharp again, no longer clouded with illness. There was something else in those eyes, too, a quiet plea. Tessa glanced at the small bowl of meat she had prepared earlier. She offered it to Iris once more, but the bobcat simply sniffed it, her gaze never leaving Tessa's face. "No, that's not it, is it?" Tessa whispered, as though she understood. She slowly set the bowl aside, trying to process the strange bond they shared. Over the years they had been through so much together, countless nights of shared silence, hunting expeditions, and the times Iris had been injured in the wild. There was a deep, unspoken connection between them, one that transcended words, and then, as if on cue, it happened. A voice, a faint but unmistakable voice from the past. "Tess?" Tessa froze, her heart skipping a beat. The voice was clear and familiar. It was the voice of a man she hadn't heard in years, the voice of her brother, Eli. Tessa looked around, bewildered, searching for the source of the voice. Was it real? Was she imagining things? I'm here," she whispered, not understanding what was happening. The room felt colder, the light dimming in the cabin as a strange, ethereal presence seemed to fill the space. Iris, who had been lying motionless only moments before, now turned her head toward the door, her ears flicking at the sound of the voice. The air seemed to vibrate, charged with an energy that Tessa couldn't explain. Her breath caught in her throat as the voice continued, this time clearer, more insistent. "Tess, I'm coming back, I'm not finished." The words echoed in the room, so real, so undeniable, that Tessa felt her knees go weak. This couldn't be possible. Eli had disappeared years ago. Everyone had assumed he was dead, lost to the wilds, swallowed up by the wilderness that they had always known too well. But now, this voice... "Iris," Tessa whispered, looking down at the bobcat, who now seemed more alert than ever. The animal's eyes had shifted, as though she too recognized the voice. She padded closer to Tessa, her once weak limbs now sure and steady, guiding Tessa to stand. In that moment, the strange, unexplainable connection between Tessa, Iris, and the voice deepened. Tessa could feel the weight of it. Something was changing. Something was calling her back to the wild, to the place where her brother had vanished. And for the first time in years, she knew the answer was close, closer than she could have ever imagined. "Iris, I don't know what's happening, but I think you know, don't you?" Tessa's voice quivered as she gazed at the bobcat. Iris nudged her hand once again, as if to confirm what Tessa had already started to understand. Eli wasn't gone. He had been there all along, and somehow Iris had known. Tessa's mind spun in a whirlwind of emotions as she knelt beside Iris. The voice, Eli's voice, still echoed in her head, reverberating like a distant drumbeat. But now it had a weight, a reality that she couldn't deny. Her heart hammered in her chest, and her hands shook as she reached out to stroke Iris's fur. "I can't believe this," Tessa whispered, her voice trembling. "Eli, you're still out there." Iris, who had been weak moments ago, stood tall now, her body stiff but resolute. The bobcat's gaze seemed to meet Tessa's, and for the first time in days, the animal didn't appear fragile. There was something in her eyes, an unspoken understanding, as if she knew more than Tessa did about what was happening. The air in the cabin was thick with tension, the fire crackling weakly in the hearth. Outside, the wind howled, and the world beyond the walls felt distant, almost like a different reality. But here, in this small space, everything felt connected. Tessa, Iris, the voice of Eli, as if all the threads of the past were finally coming together. "I have to go," Tessa murmured to herself, almost more to convince herself than anything else. She stood up, leaving the bobcat for only a moment as she gathered her coat and boots, ready to head into the wilderness. The thought of searching for Eli, the brother she had lost all those years ago, felt impossible. But it was as though something had shifted inside of her, a pull deep within her soul, urging her to follow a path she had long abandoned. Iris followed her, walking steadily now, her limbs no longer weak. The bobcat, despite her age and injuries, seemed to sense the urgency in Tessa's movements. She stood beside Tessa at the door, her golden eyes fixed on the horizon, as though she too was ready for whatever lay beyond. "I don't know where this will lead," Tessa said quietly to the bobcat, her voice low but determined. "But I have to find him. I have to know the truth." The snow outside had thickened, a blanket of white covering the landscape in a way that felt both beautiful and haunting. Tessa felt her breath catch as she stepped into the cold, the wind biting at her skin. Iris, her trusted companion, followed, without hesitation, her paws leaving soft prints in the snow. Tessa's heart beat faster as she moved toward the tree line, knowing that the path ahead wasn't just a journey through the forest, it was a journey back into her past. The forest felt different now, as though the trees whispered secrets to her, urging her to move forward. Tessa glanced down at Iris, who seemed to lead the way, guiding her deeper into the wilderness. It was a path Tessa had walked many times before, but this time it felt like something more, a calling, a reckoning. As they ventured further, Tessa couldn't shake the feeling that Eli was near, that he had somehow been waiting for her all this time. The closer she got to the heart of the forest, the more intense the pull became, as though the land itself had been waiting for them. And then, in the distance, through the trees, Tessa saw something. It was faint at first, a shadow moving through the snow, but it was enough. Enough to make her heart stop for a second. Enough to make her believe that just maybe Eli wasn't lost forever. "I'm coming, Eli," Tessa whispered, her voice filled with a quiet strength. "We're almost there." The air around them seemed to shift as Tessa and Iris continued their trek through the snow-covered forest. Every step felt heavier now, as if the weight of the past had settled in her chest, pulling her forward. The Wind howled through the trees, but it wasn't just the storm that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. There was something else, something she couldn't explain. The same pull she had felt earlier, the nagging sensation that Eli was just beyond her reach, was growing stronger. Iris moved ahead, her body sleek against the white backdrop, her movements smooth and purposeful. The bobcat's golden eyes flicked back to Tessa once or twice, her expression unreadable but determined. It was as if Iris knew exactly where they were going, like she had always known. Tessa's breath came in sharp bursts, the cold air biting her skin, but her resolve was unwavering. She had made it this far, and she wasn't turning back. The forest had a way of making everything feel infinite, the trees towering above, their branches heavy with snow, the crunch of their footsteps drowned in the vastness. But then, something caught her eye, a flash of movement. At first, Tessa thought it was just the wind playing tricks or the shadow of a deer, but as she focused, her heart skipped. There, not far from where they stood, was a figure, moving swiftly through the snow cloaked in the forest shadows. Eli. Her voice was a breath, barely a whisper, but it carried through the stillness of the forest. Her pulse quickened, and she took a step forward, every muscle in her body screaming at her to get closer. The figure paused, then turned. It wasn't Eli, not in the way she had imagined, but it was him. The man she had once known, the man who had vanished all those years ago, now standing before her, his face weathered, his eyes wary, yet familiar. His hair was longer, unkempt, and his clothes were tattered from years of survival in the wild, but the shape of him was unmistakable. Tessa's breath hitched in her throat. Eli! Her voice broke, a wave of emotion flooding her chest. The man, Eli, didn't immediately respond. His eyes flicked from Tessa to Iris and then back to her, as if weighing whether he should step forward or turn away. There was a moment of silence, a tension so thick it felt suffocating. Then, slowly, he spoke. Tessa. His voice was rough, worn, but it carried the same warmth that she remembered. I didn't think you'd come. I thought you were gone. Tessa's voice cracked as she took another step closer. Where have you been? Why didn't you? I had to leave, Tess. Eli's voice was steady, but there was a pain behind his words that made Tessa's heart ache. The forest. It took me in. I couldn't come back. I couldn't. I thought I was better off disappearing. Tessa shook her head, the tears welling up before she could stop them. You left me. You left all of us. I've been searching. For you? I've been alone. Eli took a slow step forward, his eyes softening. I never meant for you to be alone. But this life, Tess, it changed me. It made me into someone else. Someone I didn't know how to come back from. Iris, still watching from a few steps behind, let out a soft growl, her golden eyes locking onto Eli as if in recognition. She had followed them, but now, as if sensing the significance of the moment, she stood still, her body tense but unwavering. Tessa took one more step toward Eli, her voice breaking with emotion. For you're back. You're here. She couldn't find the words to explain the relief, the rush of emotion that flooded her. She wanted to be angry, to demand answers, but all she could feel was the overwhelming rush of seeing her brother again after all these years. Eli stepped closer, his rough hands reaching out for hers. I'm here now, Tess. I'm here. And in that quiet moment, the forest around them seemed to hold its breath. The cold was forgotten, the pain of the past momentarily eased. Tessa and Eli stood there, connected by the bond of blood, the bond of a shared past that no time or wilderness could sever. The world had changed, but in this moment they were together again.